Alright, we're going to pick up where we left off. This is the second half of the review packet. Remember when we're looking for the y-intercept, it's no different than when we used to do y equals mx plus b. That constant is always the y-intercept. So our constant is negative 4. That means it crosses the axis down here at negative 4, which is the point 0, negative 4. How do we find the vertex of a function? X equals negative b over 2a. Remember, b is the number in front of the plane of x, and since it's not there, it's a 0. So 0 over 2 times 6, which is still 0. So if x is 0, how do I find y? I plug it back into this equation. Y equals 6 times 0 squared plus 5. 0 squared is 0, times 6 is 0, plus 5 is 5. So the vertex is 0, 5. What is equivalent? Well, remember, these are rational square roots. You can combine them. So the square root of 27 times the square root of 2 is the same thing as the square root of 54. 54 has the perfect square of 9 in it. So 9 times the square root of 6. The square root of 9 is 3. We do not know the square root of 6, so my answer is C. Same thing with 30. This is the same as taking the square root of 16x over the square root of 49. Square root of 16 is 4. I do not know the square root of x. Square root of 49 is 7. Also, square root of 9 over the square root of 36. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 36 is 6. And 3 6 reduces to 1. Alright, if we're trying to find how deep something is, that's finding the vertex. So we're trying to find the vertex of this figure. The vertex, remember, is by taking negative b over 2a. So negative 404 is a positive 404 times 2 times 40.4. And when we do that, we get 5. Now, that is telling me my x value. I also need to find my y value. So I'm going to plug 5 in for x into this equation. And I get negative 1010. That means I'm going over 5 down 1010. So how deep is it? Well, remember, we measure distance by positive numbers, so it has to be C. The vertical motion model, 5 feet from the ground is our starting height. Velocity is 30 feet per second. How long till it hits the ground? That's our ending height at 0. So negative 16t squared plus 30t plus 5 equals 0, and we have to solve this equation. Now, there isn't a GCF. I can take out my negative 1 and see if I can factor 80. So 16 times 5 is 80. Factors of 80 are 8 and 10, 4 and 20, 5 and 16, 2 times 40. I don't see anything that's going to give me a 30 here, so maybe we need to do the quadratic formula instead. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I paused to do some calculation with my calculator, and I ended up getting 2.028, which rounds to the 2.3 seconds. Given a right triangle has the side lengths of 7 and 24, what is the length of the hypotenuse? this would be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember the hypotenuse is always your c. So 7 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. 24 squared is 576 plus 7 squared, which is 49. And this is 625. But remember, we want c, not c squared, so we have to take the square root of both sides, and we end up with a. Which of these is not a triangle? You would have to check to see if a squared plus b squared equals c squared for all of these. And if it doesn't work, then it is not a right triangle. So you would have to test all of these. And remember, C is your longest side of the triangle. I know A is a 3, 4, 5. So when you square them all, 9 plus 16 does equal 25, so that works. 121 plus 3,600 does equal 3721, that works. 225 plus 400 is 625, that works. However, 1521 plus 81 is 1602, and since these do not equal each other, that is not a right triangle. So that finishes the yellow packet of our review. Okay, so go back and watch this again if you have any further questions. Otherwise, hopefully that will help you for your final.